It's been good.
Good morning and welcome to Postulations with Chris. Join us every other Wednesday at 8:15 a.m. right here on Facebook Live, where Chris Gustafson, Senior Pastor of Eastern Heights Baptist Church, will answer questions submitted by you. We all have questions that we want answered, and this is an opportunity for you to submit those questions either through Messenger on our Facebook. You can email us at the church, or we have a box inside the church if you'd like to submit your questions that way. Chris has no idea what these questions are, so we are always thankful for his knowledge and the opportunity to ask him these questions and have them answered. So sit back and enjoy. If you think this is helpful to someone else, we ask that you please share this message out, share the show, and we look forward to seeing you every other Wednesday at 8:15 a.m. on Facebook Live. Now let's get ready for some questions with Postulations with Chris.
All right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're back, man.
We are. It's only been 6 months.
Yeah.
No, it feels like it.
It feels like it because the temperature has finally become nice.
Yeah.
The other day I was outside walking. I was like, wait a minute, I'm not coated in sweat by just walking to my car to go get something. So
I almost took your route.
yeah, almost.
But I'm like, I got to wear the lavender short sleeve
It
one
looks-
more time.
I like it. It looks good.
Yeah, it doesn't look like September 13th, but it looks
Yeah,
like
well.
So,
But yeah. So we took some time off. You took some time to go visit family.
Yes.
And, was that good? Was that good visiting your son?
Sin City?
Sin
No, I'm
City.
just kidding. It's
But,
fun to
but
say
you
that.
went to see your son. No.
Yes.
Was that fun?
Yes, it was.
Cool.
You know, I actually, well, first of all, welcome to Postulations
Yeah.
with Chris.
Yes. Welcome. Sorry.
I'm Mike.
I'm Chris.
He's Chris. Yes. 40 years here at Eastern Heights.
Yeah, it feels like
No,
it
it's
sometimes.
So you would have had to start it when you were 10.
Yeah.
Since
Well,
since you're so young.
I was one of those prodigal kids, you know.
But yes, so anyway, this is just a show where obviously Chris actually is the lead pastor here at Eastern Heights. And this is just an opportunity for really, I get to talk to you just like two
Yeah.
guys. You're not, like, you're like, your authority's great.
Well, you hit me.
You're just my buddy.
You hit me with questions, and I act like I've got answers.
Yes.
But really, we know the Bible's got the answers. So
Yeah, so.
we're not even really giving the answers.
All right, so yeah, back to Sin City.
Yeah. So you got. To
It
see
was
some-
nice.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good.
I actually did not even. He wanted to take me to the Strip, as they call
Yeah.
it, and we went to the old part, like Fremont. Apparently, that's the old part, and I was very interested. Like that part was cool, the original.
Yeah. There's a lot of historical.
Yeah,
Then
stuff
they've
there.
redone, rebuilt it up.
Yeah,
So,
lots of people watch, lots of sightseeing there.
Yeah.
It's different, but like the Strip, he was just dead set. I was like, I got an idea. Let's just drive through it, and I did. And I drove through it.
You got all you needed, and
Yeah, so we spent our time at the Red Rocks and like Hoover Dam.
Oh my gosh, how
so
cool!
yeah,
My dad went to Hoover Dam. He loved it. Absolutely, just the whole engineering and how they built it, and it's phenomenal.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah,
It really is. Yeah, so that was cool. Having somebody that lives there makes it different. Like you're not just going there
yeah.
to gain. Like I got to see all the. Toured like a couple $2.2 million homes, and
Oh my gosh,
since he's in real estate, that was pretty cool.
that's
So,
neat.
anyway, back to this. Oh, this Greg Coleman guy's watching. He might learn something. That's the guy from work. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
He's
see,
off
see.
today, so thanks for getting up
Greg's
so
off.
early.
He's off. He's off on it. He's awake.
Yeah. Good job. Yeah, he has lots of kids.
Ah,
And
okay.
small ones.
Okay, so he never sleeps period.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
So anything big going on? I mean, obviously, I always think big things are going on with the church, but anything that you?
Oh,
wanna
gee,
point out
well,
particular?
we're looking forward to Trunk or Treat, which has become a big deal for our church.
Yes.
Become big outreach and having a good time with that. And summer's fun, but it's nice to get back into routine.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of back into routine. We started a Bible study fellowship last night.
And that's Tuesdays?
Yeah, that's Tuesdays, and that was great to see all the folks coming in for that. But I like the routine. I like being back into the routine and stuff going in that area. And just, I used to not be a big fall fan, but I've become more of a fall fan, especially after this summer. So, that's our probably some of our big stuff going on right now.
Yeah, so that'd be awesome. And we'll talk more about that as it gets closer. I mean, the way we've been doing it, our next show will be somewhere right before Halloween.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No,
When do we take off? It's Reformation Day.
Reformation Day.
Yeah.
So today, I actually have an easy one for you.
Uh-oh.
Like super easy. I probably made it too easy.
Okay.
So, we may not even get to do like a 10-minute show.
I'm sure we will.
But no, so I have, this actually is for me. So I can ask this question easily. But I've started let's see, 29 days ago, started over reading the Proverbs. I won't say started over because I've never read every proverb. Like I can say that, so I'm not going to say I started over. I would be fibbing. I've read just periodically, randomly picked them, but I've started at one and read through. So there's 31.
Yeah,
which
31.
I have 2 left. But man, it is so. Like a lot of times, so I had to start taking a highlighter and highlighting each, the number 27, because there's a lot of things that are so repetitive. Like, why does he? It's like, I know I just read that. Like, I just read about this roaring lion in the last one. I just read about smacking this fool's back in the last.
Yeah.
But different things. But even as I'm almost to the end of it, it's like it's the same one that could have been in the first or second, whichever that is. I don't have it memorized. So all I want you to do to help me is just in 3 topics or 3 things you would pick out to help me fully understand the Proverbs.
Oh, great.
In 15 minutes. So I'll just tell you some of my confusions.
Yeah.
I'll read, and obviously it's a lot about sluggards, a lot about sluggards. And I even had to look up the word sluggard again. It's like, okay, am I sure I know what a sluggard is?
It's a baseball player.
That's really good.
Whacks the ball.
Yes, it's a museum.
Yeah,
little sluggards.
You make the bats.
But I mean, it obviously talks about not being lazy and that you have to work, and there's some really good things that the sluggard reaches his hand into the bowl, but he's too lazy to bring it back to his mouth, and several things like that.
Very descriptive.
Very.
Yeah.
But then right after that, then it talks about, the poor are better off than. And it's like, okay, so I'm supposed to work hard. Am I supposed to work hard for free? Don't earn too much? Is that what it is? Then obviously, just don't mess with a fool at all.
Yeah.
There's lots of fools around. But in looking at it, all of it, it's much easier. The path of a fool and the path of a sluggard and the path of speaking too quickly are so much easier.
Oh, yeah.
Our normal reaction versus, so was it narrow is the wide is the gate?
Wide is the gate.
Narrow is the
path. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, I just read that in Luke. Read that in Luke last night. Yeah.
So go ahead. So explain. If you can break down these proverbs.
So Proverbs, kind of understanding is what's called wisdom literature.
I'm sorry.
What?
Jason said, "Can you pity the fool?"
Can you pity the fool? Yeah, that's a Mr. T.
Mr. T. reference.
Yeah, Mr. T. Version of the Bible. They gotta watch some of those modern translations out there, people. So it's a wisdom literature, and part of it's understanding a little bit of the Near Eastern kind of wisdom that would be out there. And so a lot of it's very descriptive, so it's drawing a picture in your head so that you remember it, but it's not to be taken always literal. And so now we used to do this in our society. We don't do it as much anymore. Ben Franklin had a lot of those little sayings, and so we still have some of them today. One of them I like is people say, "Don't cry over spilt milk."
Right. Have you ever cried over spilled milk?
I've never cried over spilled milk. Why are you spilling milk? I don't understand.
I don't like milk, actually.
Yeah, we have a lot of people who don't even. I don't touch milk. Would you possibly drink milk? And so we've kind of lost those little sayings that are out there. But that whole concept of is, don't worry about something that can't be fixed. Milk was valuable, and you didn't have a whole lot of it, so you couldn't run out and go buy it, and you had it, and you spilled some, and then you'd be like all of a sudden and say, listen, you can't change that, and that's kind of
Right.
So these statements that they have for the original readers, they understood. There's a point that's going on in them that's sometimes lost to us. The repetition is there because you can open Proverbs and read it, but for a lot of them they didn't have that available to read. And so that repetition was allowing them to continue to remember it. So as they're going in to sometimes like later into the synagogues or another point, and it's being repeated by the teachers, they're catching it, and they're like, okay. And then there's an overall concept for especially Jewish wisdom literature, and that is that you're wanting to recognize God's sovereignty. So the goal here is to understand that God is ultimately in control, and what we need to be doing is worshiping God. And so there is this level of expectation. Don't be a sluggard. God's in control, and God expects you to care for creation, to care for your family. But at the same time, don't be so consumed with wealth that you start thinking, I don't need God. I've got as much wealth as I need. And so the poor person is to be envied because they understand the need for something. They understand they need that daily bread. The rich guy doesn't. I've got as much bread as I want. And so they said, this guy's to be pitied because he doesn't see his need for God. And
So it's not totally referencing whether it's material things or things.
Yeah, it's the
a
overall
need
concept.
for God.
The overall concept is this need for. So the proverb is to recognize this need for God and to live your life in that. So we have in the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, we have a set of wisdom literature, and it's really great because it all complements each other. So you have the Psalms, in which you have these songs being sung to God. Sometimes they're crying out, sometimes they're happy, sometimes they're dealing with struggles, sometimes they're dealing with victory. They're great in there. You have Song of Songs or Song of Solomon, which is about the joy of life, the joy of sex, the joy of love, and how wonderful that is. You have Ecclesiastes, which is about, but life's got a lot of problems. It's got a lot of hard stuff in it too, and you got to recognize that. And then you have the Proverbs that has this collection of sayings that are like, here's some ways to kind of help guide your life. And then you have Job, which is this theological discussion over why does bad things happen to good people. And so all the wisdom literature brought together helps us point ourselves in different ways to God's sovereignty and God being in control, and how do we live our life like that. Yeah.
So you did it.
Long answer to that.
No. So and it is funny, like you mentioned, like the spilt milk. Like obviously then, and there's a lot of, like, I'll hear quotes all the time, and then I have to look at them like, what does that mean? Like, why did that ever even become a thing?
Yeah.
Like, what is blackmail? Like, when you like just looking any of it up and doing the research and figure out, obviously those things were so long ago. Like, okay, that made sense then. Like you said, you couldn't just run and get milk. I was talking to a college student with our college ministry, and I said something about getting a pink slip, and they're like, why is that a big deal? And I was like, well, they have no idea what a pink slip is. They have no idea that pink slip carried with it, you got fired. Right.
Now
you just come in and your passwords don't work.
Yeah, your passwords.
Come to the office.
Yeah. I mean, and it was so funny, but and then one of them said to me, I said, we were talking about doing something, and they looked, and I said, tell us what we're going to do, and they go, sick.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well,
No, I don't think so. But I was like, what does that mean? And they go, that means it's good.
Yeah, a lot of things that are good were things that were bad.
Yeah.
When we did it.
And so our society, we understand that we reverse stuff, and so someday someone will be reading some of our stuff and sitting there going, what on earth were these people talking about? All right.
Yeah,
So
I was trying to. Okay. Oh, great. I'm glad because my eyes.
Mr. Shaw has.
Mr. Shaw has a paragraph. Okay,
Oh, good.
Let's go do that. Keep falsehood and lies far from me. Give me neither poverty nor riches, but give me only my daily bread. Otherwise, I may have too much and disown you and say, "Who is the Lord?" So basically,
Yeah.
as we go through
So
that,
so he's taking from Proverb 30 which you haven't gotten to
No,
yet.
that's next. That's
Yeah.
tomorrow.
And,
thanks for ruining the.
yeah.
Thanks for ruining the.
And that whole idea of, keep me so I see my need for God, but allow me also to be able to live and enjoy life.
Yeah.
And that is our struggle in many ways.
Yeah. So that's what I was just thinking. So because you said going back to like but even looking back, not even that far back.
Mm-hmm.
But you hear it a lot, like that society's become a lot more accepting of things. Maybe even sometimes people complain that, and that's not a thing to get into, but the church has become too accepting of things. And when you look at it, I mean, like a lot of things in there were like with discipline with your children. And obviously back when I was young, I was disciplined in a totally different way. Now, I can say that Corey doesn't watch this. Well, like for any of the kids, I haven't.
He'll watch it this time.
Like if I was to spank him, if it happened once,
Yeah.
it was huge. Like it would break his heart and bring all the kids. Like that's not. And now you don't hear that at all. Like very few people do I hear say, I had to give my kid a spanking. Like I guess it's still a thing. Jason, you're obviously versed in the Proverbs. Do you give your kids that rod?
Yeah.
You just pound?
Well, again, so that's a great one. The old spare the rod, spoil the child sort of deal. And that was never to be taken literal. That's not a literal statement. That is, those hearing that or understanding no more than sitting there saying, says something good, saying sick, and saying you're really sick. What it was simply saying is, those who love their children discipline them. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, they're not even saying it punish them, it's saying disciplines them. That love is a role of discipline, and it takes time. And then in true discipline, if you're truly disciplining your child, you have to find what works for them.
Yeah.
And what works for you.
Right.
So, occasionally I have, hopefully no one's listening says this to me, but someone says
someone's listening. I can tell you.
Say,
I know
what?
a few people are listening.
She'll say, my parents beat me, and I turned out fine.
Right.
And I'm like, well, a moment for rebuttal. No, you're not fine. That just explained a lot of stuff for the rest of it. I mean, so we have to understand what worked for us. We really have to find our child, what works for our child. So you said with your son, I didn't have to spank him.
Right.
I had one child. You looked at him as if you were disappointed, and it just broke him.
Right.
That was it. That was the other one. Defiant to the day, we were all going to go down in flames, and
I'm not even going to try to guess. Which
but it was okay, and so we had to learn to adjust and we're trying to learn it. So that whole statement is just saying, don't give up.
Yeah. Don't
give up on disciplining your child. But people will take that literal and they'll go, okay, we're going to give you this rod now. That's not, to me, that shows a lack of understanding of Near Eastern wisdom literature. So one, that person's not really done an excellent study of understanding what they're teaching, and then the other side of that is that's just abusive.
Yeah.
You're going around threatening, I want to beat you with a stick. I'm like, that kid will grow up, all right?
Yeah. So, okay, then you may have just broke down my question or what I was thinking, which is okay. So in my head I was thinking like, okay, like in my head I picture I wasn't one and a farmer or like back in the settlers' days, during that time of coming up, that like they really did. Most people worked really hard. I mean, they got up, sun. I mean, a lot of that is true. There was also some lazy drunkard, gossipers, sluggards, the same as they're talking about. And discipline was a thing. Now, was it the physical beating of the rod and all that? Was that it, or was it just there was a little different type of respect for the parent back then? Maybe not. So you'd like to say that we've come so far away, but really we haven't.
What are you talking?
Honestly,
I mean,
right.
So we all like to think that there was this mysterious place in the past.
Yes. I told you. You broke down my thought.
What I often say is, 2 generations ago was the greatest generation ever. our generation is the last one holding on, and the next generation is a disaster. And you can pick that. Every generation thinks that. Every generation thinks we're the last ones holding on, and this next one is a disaster. And there was a golden day back there. So one of the funny things about Israel. So Israel's got this literature, right? And we believe Solomon wrote a lot of the Proverbs. We probably Ecclesiastes and Song of Songs. We have David writing the Psalms. We have Job, which is a really old book. And so here they are, and they're writing this at the height of the kingdom. And here's the kingdom is great. The king is wealthy. Well, the kingdom is wealthy. At that time, Israel was the largest empire that existed on the world while this stuff is being written. And you go, so here they all have it, and they have all this wisdom. Well, just read what happened. They fell apart. They fell into idol worship. They fell, and eventually both the kingdom splits, and then both of them get destroyed. So, you're going, where's the golden glory day? They had these teachings, but what they forgot was the core thing, God.
Yeah.
And once they abandoned God, it didn't matter if they kept I got the rod that disciplined my child, but they didn't have God realizing, God also disciplines me.
Yeah.
And so you can have all these statements, and we can talk about in the past, and we can talk about, well, back then, kids didn't talk back to their parents. Yeah, they did.
Yeah. It's funny. It is funny.
They just didn't have social media, or you didn't hear them saying it, or start talking to people, and all of a sudden you start getting stories. You're like,
Yeah. I mean, they did some stuff we didn't even do.
No.
I don't even know anybody that's thought about having 700 wives or.
No.
They were really.
They were.
But it is funny because we were out to dinner the other night, and I guess I'm assuming it was a grandparent was there with his grandkids, and they were both on their little iPads playing games, right?
Yeah.
The whole time, and we just kind of started a conversation. He's like, when I was little, he's like, man, he's like, they don't go outside. He's like, these kids don't go outside and blah blah. And he's like, you had to, same things we would say. Like, I don't see a lot of kids outside. He's like, but they're always on these, and the more he kept talking, he's like, and he's like, yeah, you're right. And he goes, and he's like, and they're like, well, what would you do if you had these things? He's like, exactly what you're doing. You know what I mean? He's like, and he's like, if I had that, I didn't have it. He's like, but if I would have had that when I was their age, I would have been doing the exact same thing.
I mean, I laugh because I'll hear people, they'll sit there and they'll go, they look at the kids and they're on their iPad, and they go, these kids don't go outside like I did. And I said, and then 5 minutes later, they're like, I can't get my phone to work. Can you get it to
What's the Wi-Fi password?
The Wi-Fi. The 5-year-old is running your computer, but you're going to complain that, we complain about it the rest of the time, but then we're dependent upon them.
Right.
And and part of it too, we have made it scary to go outside.
Yeah.
We have made, don't talk to strangers, be careful where you are, don't leave the yard, don't walk out in the street and stuff.
And they hear and see these stories unfortunately on more opportunities.
Yeah, when you lived out, you didn't have as much traffic.
Right.
But now you have more traffic. So we do keep our kids in. But I mean, it cracks me up with my kids on some computer stuff is I'll say, we'll be talking about something. I'll be like, well, I don't know about that. And they'll go, hold on. Okay, yeah, da-da-da-da. They have this wealth of information. We just lie to each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how much stuff I'm having to unlearn that I got taught that wasn't true, but nobody knew the answer, so they just said, well, it happens to be, no one really knows where the heart's located. So, okay, we don't know.
So if we just wrapped all those up together, so you biblically are supposed to work and provide.
Yeah.
I mean, that's okay as long as you keep it in alignment perspective. Like, obviously it talks a lot about dishonest gains, like how you
don't cheat on the scales.
Yeah. Discipline is love.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna let you. So that, and then like fools. I don't know. We didn't get into all these people. I pity the fools.
Well, what does the Bible say is the fool?
A lot of it is really like their speech.
Yeah.
How quick they react and say things, and then also though how they're drawn away by different things. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously talks like a lot about prostitutes and those type of things, being lured away by that. So
at the heart of it, it says, the fool says in his heart, there is no God. And so what makes the fool is the fool talks the way they do, and the fool acts the way they do, and the fool pursues the things they do, because the fool doesn't recognize God. And if you recognize God, so like the fool going after a cheat, and they say, well, no one's going to know. But if you recognize God, you go, but God knows.
yeah,
So I'm not going to go do this. So that's a lot of, when you read the fool's statements, think about that. Say, why is the fool doing it? Well, the fool doesn't recognize God. So he speaks these foolish words and stuff.
so it's not that it's such a tough.
No.
It's an easier life probably to choose to do all those things, and it maybe feels easier, but in the end, I think sometimes that is the problem, is when we do recognize God in our choices and the things that we do, it's convicting, and we don't like that.
No,
we don't like that. So it's not that it's easier. It's like we just don't want to accept or deal with our own sin, which thankfully God took care of that through Christ. But that doesn't mean we have free will. But that conviction is something that we don't like. So maybe it's maybe that's why it's like, well, it's much easier to do this and do that, and I can get rich the easy way, and I can cheat, and I can do all these different things, and
no one will
not
know.
discipline my kid, or just not care. Let him run.
And no one will know.
But
And
God
there will be no
knows.
consequences.
Yeah.
And with God, we say, God knows, and there are consequences.
Yeah.
So pursue being wise instead.
Yeah.
It doesn't guarantee that everything's going to work out. And that's one more thing I'll say before we finish off.
Yeah.
A misunderstanding of Proverbs a lot of times is people think, if you follow this, good things will happen to you. And if you don't, bad things will happen to you. That's why the book of Job is part of the wisdom literature. It says, not always. And that's a discussion for another time. But that's why you have all these different books of the wisdom literature and seeing them together, as opposed to just taking this one book out. We need to see it together and understand, okay, there's this wisdom that's being talked about from these different perspectives. But all of it focuses on that there's a God.
Very good.
Yeah.
See, that was very
All
helpful. I thought that was the
Yeah,
Lord.
it's good. Good
The fool
discussion.
says in his heart, there is no God.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've read that several times in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why it's reinforcing. That's why the fool does what the fool does.
Yeah.
Not simply that they're just foolish. So pity the fool.
Pity the fool,
Because
of course.
they don't know there's a God.
Proverbs descriptive, not always perspective.
Yeah. That's what he just put everything in one line.
He did.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I asked you to do.
We should do juggling with Jason,
Yeah.
and just have him come in and juggle some scripture stuff for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think you did a great job.
Well, thank you. I waited a long time for him to say what he said in one line.
Yeah, I don't even agree with him.
Nah,
I don't agree with that fool.
What was that word? What was that? I can't even spell that word. So that's not even. He made that word up. I don't even know what that is. Prescriptive.
Stop it.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, prescriptive. I said perspective because I know the word prescriptive. Yeah. Thanks a lot. You know what? I will Google that on my phone that I hate that my kids use.
Yeah, I'll Google. I'll figure out what that word means.
Well, we should be back in 2 weeks. That
Yes.
should be good because,
Yeah.
like you said, in the fall things kind of get back to normal, vacations and a lot of that stuff's over. And I think I will be here. So we'll let you close us up. in
All
prayer,
right.
and we will.
Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for your word, and we thank you that most of all it points us to you and the reminder of who you are, that special gift that you've given us through the work of your Spirit, that we might be able to read and know and understand you. We thank you for it. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks,
All right.
guys.